Hi everyone, I'm Chris Jeub, President of Training Minds Ministry, here to train minds for action as mandated in 1 Peter 1:13. I'm here with my very good friend Andrew Pudewa. Andrew is the founder and director of the Institute for the Excellence in Writing. He is a very popular speaker at educational and homeschool conferences internationally, teaches educators how to teach writing, thinking, spelling, and music with clarity, insight, practical experience, and a bit of humor. How are you doing, Andrew?
I am having a great day, Chris. I gave my 4-year-old grandson a violin lesson this morning and knocked off a bunch of phone calls, and now I get to be with one of my best friends.
All
You!
right. Excellent, excellent. Andrew, I love what you do. People may not realize that our organizations work together quite a bit. Your day job is teaching kids how to write, and my day job is teaching kids how to speak. And there are fundamental similarities between the two. Can you take some time to do two things? One, explain what IEW, the Institute for the Excellence of Writing, does, and how it relates to training minds for action.
Sure. We are a publishing company and a training company. We do both. We essentially help students and teachers to help students organize ideas and present them in an effective way. So structure and style. And of course, this is very, very similar to any form of communication, but particularly to public speaking. I've been involved in speech and debate myself for many years with my own children, and I have had many students, come back and say, "Wow, things I learned in speech are so helpful in writing. Things I learned in the writing class are so helpful in the speech." So, we publish video courses, primarily of me, teaching materials written by a wide range of people. I do mostly speak for homeschool groups, a few private schools, but we have a schools division. We reach out to the public sector as well. But on my heart is with Christian homeschooling because I view that as being the greatest hope for the future. With Training Minds, it's been fantastic because we have such an intersection of vision. We have reasons to co-promote things together, and we know that the skills are mutually supporting. And so I've just been, of course, impressed with everything you've been doing since the very first speech camp that my little daughter went to, I don't know, more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a great ride, and the last couple of years have been the best.
Awesome, awesome. That's great, Andrew. I totally concur with that too. And this idea of your videos, actually, some of your promotional videos, I've enjoyed this last year. The stuff that you've come out with, and you have this approach, and I want you to explain it a little bit more because you have this approach of thinking before writing. And can you explain that more?
Well, yeah, I think the key there is separating complexity. You could also translate that into planning, which we know is very important in our world. But the modern approach to teaching writing is unfortunately, in many ways, the opposite. Schools will just give kids, paper and notebooks and say, just write whatever comes into your mind, just kind of flow it out, and then you can maybe improve it later if you feel so inclined. So it's this very touchy-feely emotional approach to expressing yourself. Whereas I would disagree that writing has anything at all to do with expressing yourself, and almost everything to do with expressing ideas. So, if we train children to express ideas, and then the better the ideas they can find, the more effective they will be in the world. And we work, mostly in a very traditional approach. We start by giving kids content, have them represent those ideas. This is the same way that the ancient teachers of rhetoric in Greece and Rome began their students' training, was represent a fable, retell information. And then as the students grow in their maturity and experience and thinking capacity, then the ideas that they have available to express become more and more sophisticated. And of course, that carries us right into the world of speech. I mean, how many judges really want to sit there and listen to you go on and on about how you feel? It's more about where are the important ideas and how do we articulate those in the persuasive and winsome way. So this figure out first what you want to say, focus on ideas, learn how to do that well, and then gradually more and more of those ideas you may be able to lay claim to. Although quite honestly, Chris, I don't think I've actually had an original idea at any time in my life. I once thought I had an idea that I had thought of, but then I discovered actually Bonhoeffer had articulated it with great clarity decades before. So I'm kind of giving up on the whole idea of, me coming up with anything particularly new or original.
That's funny. That's funny. I like to say I come up with an original idea every few years or so, but I bet you somebody else did too at the same time. That's so similar to what I do with our publishing company too, Monument Publishing, the training arm or the publishing arm of Training Minds Ministry. The subtitle of that is Think, Speak, and Persuade, and I oftentimes have to tell people who use our curriculum in that order. So start with thinking, then speaking, then
Yes.
we can persuade the world. Man, you're such an intelligent guy. I just love talking with you, and we've had rich conversations and stuff. But there's the reason you're coming to the 4Action Conference isn't really to teach the conference attendees to learn how to write, but there is a bit of entrepreneurial business experience, a world of Andrew Pudewa that you're bringing to the conference. You're going to be there all 3 days. You'll be befriending these kids as well as parents who are attending or younger people attending. And I'd like to hear about that. In your words, really, how do you want to connect with the 4Action attendees when you're going to be there in January?
Well, I think first of all, the context you're creating is unique and remarkable. It's hard for young people to go somewhere and get together with other young people who are actually very interested in growing up and doing things that matter and having an impact on the world. So the context of all is going to be, I think part of the magic. I also know for a fact you needed an old guy since everybody else is pretty young and I'm older than you, so I was probably the cheapest old guy you could figure out to invite. But as I do that I feel kids these days, a lot of them aware, especially the thinking, educated ones, are aware they've been born into a very interesting time in history. There could be major changes, impacts just around the corner that could really change things as we know them in a big way. And it's times like these that we need, not just kids to be responsible and hold down on a job and do all those things that adults say they should do. We need kids to be ready to face crisis, to lead their clueless peers through times of challenge and difficulty, to keep their heads about them, to know the truth, and to be able to communicate those truths, especially under pressure. And so I think a lot of kids are aware of this. They have that feeling deep down. And a lot of young folks I've talked to, I've kind of given them this mini speech, which is, prepare yourselves for hard times ahead, have come up to me afterwards and said, wow, I knew that, but nobody ever told me it. And I really thank you. Thank you for giving me permission to know what I thought I knew. So we're living in a real interesting time, and I think what you're doing with this conference is as timely as anything could be.
Let me run down the specifics of the 4Action Conference for the viewers who may have tuned in to see you or and don't know much about it. It is a 3-day conference at Focus on the Family in Colorado Springs, January 2nd through the 4th. We have several established speakers like Andrew, who are all likewise taking on great action in life for greater purpose and with tremendous vision. The goal is to show the 16 to 24-year-olds how it's done to bring success to what God is calling them to. You can find out more at www.trainingminds.org/action. Andrew, what specifically are you going to be talking about at the 4Action Conference?
Well, I have kind of an interesting story, personally, decisions that I made when I was young that a lot of people thought were pretty crazy. I think I frustrated perhaps my father and mother a bit. And as I navigated those years of, the late teens and 20s, it kind of looked like I was just going from one wild thing to another and not settling down, not getting the type of focus that was going to give me the type of, secure job that is so important. And because I was willing to kind of follow my gut in a way, I can look back now and see the incredible things that I learned from some amazing people that I would never have learned or met if I hadn't taken this alternate route, and how those skills and experiences came together in just perfect consonance, providentially by God's hand, God's will, in my 30s, so that I could, start this this business, this activity that has clearly been so blessed and able to bless so many. So I think it's a very important thing when you're young to balance the problem of, craziness versus prudence, doing something wild versus being careful, and as we know, wisdom usually lies in the middle. But determining when to take the risk, when to do something that seems outrageous, that's something I don't have all the answers to. Obviously, I just have a bit of experience to share, and I think it's a good thing for us to contemplate together. So, I would like to fill in that role of facilitating that contemplation and being around to ask anybody, what are some of the things that you had to do when you started a business where you had 3 employees, which was you, yourself, and you. How do you bootstrap something up from the bottom? And you, Chris, of course, you've been in the same position, and I think there will be a lot of young people with ideas, and if we're there and they can bounce those ideas off us and get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion from people who are maybe a few steps further down the path, I think that'll be of great benefit to them, really.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And for those of you who are tuning into this interview, take the time to visit trainingminds.org/action and seriously consider making the trip out to Colorado Springs January 2nd through the 4th, 2014. As of today, November 6th, that's when we're actually recording this, we are 25% full. So we are on track to selling out before the holiday season begins. So all conference materials, meals, and sessions come with your 3-day ticket of only $179. Andrew, are there any last thoughts you'd like to cast off to the viewers?
Well, I would like to let you know that it appears our schedule has changed, and I am going to be able to bring my son, Christopher.
Excellent.
He's right at that age of just, constantly thinking of things he wanted to do with his life, and I think having that time to just come apart, see what some of the other, 20-somethings that have kind of had the same background as him, what they've done. So I'm going to try and combine that maybe with a little bit of skiing. I hear you've got good skiing there in Colorado in January.
Yep, it's the time to be here.
So,
it sure is.
We might try and do that, and it's kind of a risk you're taking, Chris, doing a conference that you've never done before. Mm-hmm. You don't know exactly how it's going to come out. You've got goals and a bit of a vision. But that's something exciting. Anyone who's considering the idea of coming out, you'd be the start of the thing. You'd be right there at the beginning of this, which, who knows? In 5 years, this could be a Coliseum level event in terms of young people wanting to get energized to make a difference in their world and take action using their knowledge and skills. So,
Boy, I sure hope so. I really hope so, Andrew. This is a big step in my ministry's direction. We've always been very comfortable training minds for action in a competitive round and speech and debate and things like that, which your son is involved in. And we like to bring them to championship levels and fill their parents' attic up with their trophies. But that's really not the main purpose of what we are trying to do. We want to train them for great things that God has called them to do outside of competition, beyond high school. That's the real purpose of this conference, and I think that's what's capturing the hearts and minds of other parents out there who feel like they should be sending their kids to something like this, and other homeschool leaders are feeling the same way. I think everybody is just kind of wondering about this millennial generation and how they're going to carry the baton into the future, and that's what the Before Action Conference is about. Well, very good to hear that Chris is going to be coming, because we've been going back and forth on that, thinking let's get him out there, but he had a tournament or something that was.
We actually have two tournaments. One the weekend of your conference in Dallas, and then the next one confirmed in Oklahoma City the week after that. And we can't go to both, and so it makes good sense now to do the closer one and then take the hop over to Denver and see if I can persuade any of our other kids to come along, and
Awesome.
we'll make a party out of it if possible.
Awesome. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks again, Andrew, for your time, your friendship, your vision too, and what you're going to be bringing to the For Action Conference. And I look forward to seeing you in January in Colorado Springs.
All right, Chris, thanks for having me, and keep up the good work.
Okay, take care, my friend.